Hello everybody, welcome to this week's midweek thought for the day, a day early. I know, confusing people, but needs to be today for technical reasons. So I'm going to talk to you about the things that we've been thinking about in the midweek service this week. I'm going to start by reading a bit from Isaiah. So it's Isaiah chapter 61, beginning at verse 1. The Spirit of the Lord God is upon me, because the Lord has anointed me. He has sent me to bring good news to the oppressed, to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives and release to the prisoners, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favour and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all who mourn, to provide for those who mourn in Zion, to give them a garland instead of ashes, the oil of gladness instead of mourning, the mantle of praise instead of a faint spirit. They will be called oaks of righteousness, the planting of the Lord, to display his glory. They shall build up the ancient ruins. They shall rise up from their former devastations. They shall repair the ruined cities, the devastations of many generations. So that is Isaiah 61. And then I want to read it for the gospel passage from Matthew chapter 11, just a few verses about John the Baptist. So it's Matthew 11 and it's 2. I'm just going to read 2 to 6. When John heard in prison what the Messiah was doing, he sent word by his disciples and said to him, "Are you the one who is to come, or are we to wait for another?" Jesus answered them, "Go and tell John what you hear and see. The blind receive their sight, the lame walk, the lepers are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, and the poor have good news brought to them, and blessed is anyone who takes no offence at me." So these are two very important passages to hold in balance. And we need to remember that Jesus would have known the Isaiah passage kind of more or less off by heart. So he's replying to John's request. John the Baptist is in prison at this point. We are reading this book at the moment, Terry Waite, Out of the Silence. And the poem for this week is about his father as his father is dying. And Terry gets summoned to his father's bedside. It was the depth of night, the time when one hovers between mortal life and the unknown. I stood by the bedside, fatigued from driving. The room was full with the silence of death. Cautiously I drew back the sheet, covering my father's face, brow furrowed, cheeks hollow, eyes closed. The tears burned my eyes as I wept and remembered times past. The time when he wept as I told him his death was near. Now time has no meaning for him. Released from a body racked by pain, he has gone. My father, Daddy, gone. So it's really interesting that Terry has chosen to pair this poem about the release of death with a little paragraph about a release of captives. So he's writing about a visit he made to the Orthodox Cathedral in London. On my release, I went to the morning service, as I had done occasionally when in London before my captivity. At the end of the service, as is the custom, the congregation gathered around the bishop as he delivered a short homily. He had obviously recognised me and said quite spontaneously, "Welcome home. We have been praying for you, and now we shall sing." Immediately the whole congregation intoned the most beautiful Russian melody and reduced me to tears. Afterward, I was told that on a visit I had made to the church just before being captured, Irina Ratushinskaya, the poet, was in the congregation following her release from imprisonment by the Soviets. So Terry has paired this idea of release from imprisonment with the dying of his father. He's put the poem and that little story together, and the little story of how the bishop actually said, well, you're here, so we're going to sing. We're going to sing. We've been praying for you. We're going to sing because you have been released from captivity. So the alert of you might have noticed and might know why I've chosen these two passages. In the Isaiah passage, the release of the captives, the setting free people from prison, is in the phrase. It's in the phrase. Jesus does not share that phrase with John. So Jesus is sending back a message to John saying, the kingdom is coming. These are the signs of the kingdom. These are the things that we have thought about, but this will not be release of the captives for you. It's really important for us as Christians to remember that we believe that death is the ultimate healing, the ultimate release. And there's a little kind of nuance of that within Terry Waite's poem, isn't there? We believe, our theology is that death is the ultimate healing, the ultimate release. And John the Baptist will come to that, that ultimate healing, that death and resurrection very quickly. And Jesus is saying to him, even though he's his best beloved cousin, you have to stay in the hard place now. But it is going to be okay. The kingdom is coming, but you have to stay in that hard place now. And sometimes that's very hard for us to think about or to understand. But I think what's really important at the moment is to remember that there's this great saying, I'm not sure whether it's Nicky Gumbel's originally, but people have been sharing it. If it's not okay, it's not the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end, because we believe that suffering is never the final outcome. Instead, the final outcome is release and heaven. And in some little ways, captured in Terry Waite's poem, it's like that will be us when we get to heaven. There will be heavenly hosts going, we've been praying for you, welcome home, let's sing. So that's our midweek thought for the day. Let's just hold on to that little thought. You know, it's not okay. This is not the end, and suffering will never be the final outcome. So I'll speak to you all soon. Bye.